So without further ado, I'd like to introduce our speaker today, Mr. Ray Abram.
Thanks, Sandy. I want to thank the Atlanta Urban League for having me out tonight. I'm so excited about speaking to you guys tonight on making authentic connections. As a networking coach, this is a topic that's near and dear to my heart because I see so many people when they're networking and they're trying to make connections doing it incorrectly. And the reason they do it incorrectly is because when you look at this picture, what is this guy doing? He's networking, right? But the reality is, that's not the right way to do it. But don't feel bad because everyone, including myself, was taught that if you want to get a job or if you want to make more money, if you want to sell your product or your service, you go to a networking event with a handful of business cards and talk to as many people as you can. But unfortunately, for many of us, we find that doesn't work, and it leads to a lot of frustration. The point I wanted to make is that networking has nothing to do with exchanging business cards, right? We're always taught that you get a bunch of business cards and you hand them out. But there's a reason why business cards, as we think of them, don't work. It's something called a 3% rule. Now, many of you who are in sales or marketing may have heard of this. And quite simply what it means is that in any given market, you have 3% of the people who are ready to buy your product or service, and even if your services as an employee, at that given time. Only 3%. Which means if there were 100 people in this room and you gave a business card to everybody, 3 people would need or want to buy your product or service. Now, you might be thinking, well, that's not too bad. I'll take those odds. But the story doesn't end there. Because why would those people buy from you? They just met you tonight, right? So you now have to show them. You have to build a connection with them, and that's where the connection comes from. You have to connect with them so that they will want to buy your product and service. So the real number of someone who will buy from you or hire you or give you that promotion out of those 100 contacts is really more like 1%. Now, somebody in sales and marketing will tell you, well, that's about right. You knock on 100 doors and you sell one product. But for folks who aren't natural salespeople, that's where that frustration comes in, right? Where you say, I'm knocking on doors, I'm talking to people, I'm passing out cards, and it's just not working for me. And what a professional salesperson will tell you, well, network more, right? If you're going out twice a week, go out 3 times or 4 times a week. And if you feel a little, if you're shy or you're introverted, and going out to networking events is, the last thing you want to do, you feel kind of stuck. And so that's what I wanted to talk a little bit about, is understanding what networking is, right? So all networking is, or what a network is a store of social capital. And that term may be a little unfamiliar to you, but social capital is very similar in many ways to monetary capital, right? You think about a bank is where you store your money, right? Your capital, or the stock market is where you store your investment capital. A network is simply a place where you store your social capital. Has anybody here heard the term your net worth, or your network is equal to your net worth? Right? Many of you have heard that. That's what they're talking about, right? So the value, assigning a value to your network is really what this is about. Making an investment and building capital just like you would in the stock market, right? So when you're meeting people, it's not about just transactions where you're exchanging business cards, Because we've already talked about that doesn't work. Does anybody here have a box or a drawer or a bag full of business cards at home, right? And have you ever gotten any money from any of those cards? Right? They just sit there, right? That just doesn't work. Building a network is not about exchanging the business cards, it's about investing in relationships. It's about investing in relationships so that they can grow. But this is another common misconception. Well, I'm shy. I'm introverted. I can't be a good networker. Right? But let me ask I know we have some stock whizzes in here, probably some stock brokers in here. Which portfolio is more valuable? The one that is invested in 5 companies or the one that is invested in 50 companies?
50.
Maybe, right? But the reality is, you really don't know, right? There's no right answer. That was a trick question, sorry. There's no right answer to that because it depends on what the 5 companies are or what the 50 companies are, right? If the 5 companies could be Tesla, Amazon, Microsoft, and the 50 companies, could be penny stock. And that's the same thing with your network. It doesn't matter so much how many people are in your network. What matters is who is in your network, right? Being intentional about the people you meet and building relationships with, right? Many of the people that we've met just kind of along our lives, right, are just people we met randomly. When you think about it, somebody who lived next door to you, some of our best friends, or just lived in the neighborhood. We met them in school, on the bus, in the dorm, just randomly. You started talking. You've been friends for 20 years. But what we need to have is a plan and being intentional. So I call it a relationship plan. When you're in business for yourself, and even if you work in corporate, you're familiar with writing a business plan. Right? And in your personal life, you should have, if you don't, you should have a financial plan, right? Where you're laying out, this is how much money I need, this is how much money I save to make my bills and also to retire on. But what nobody ever tells us to do is actually create a relationship plan. And what is a relationship plan? A relationship plan is simply just like a financial plan. You lay out your goals. This is the things I want to get out of life in short term or long term. But this is a step we miss. Who do we need to have in our lives in order to help us reach those goals? One question I ask clients all the time, who, if you knew them, could change your life? If Oprah was your best friend, right? And so sometimes we say, yeah, that sounds good, but how do you meet people, right? It's about attracting these people, the type of people who are successful, into your circle so that they become part of your network, right? You have people who in your network who hold you back, right? I see it on Facebook all the time. Every December 31st, people talk about they cutting people off, right? It's cutoff season, right? But why are these people in your network in the first place? You have to have some type of criteria, right? You have to know who you're adding to the network, who you're keeping in your network, and how do you attract them to your network. And this is how. Being a great person, right? And when I say great, right, just take a second, take a beat, and think about someone who you know is a great person. And it's someone who inspires you, someone who you love to have in your network. And I would be willing to wager these people, next slide, have these attributes. They're generous. Right? That's the first thing. Generosity is so important. Many of us have heard about The Secret or the law of attraction, right? And you're led to believe that if you sit in a room and you close your eyes and you wish for something, it's going to come true. But we all know common sense tells us that usually doesn't happen. But there is some truth in the law of attraction in that it's about abundance and having a generous spirit. And a generous spirit comes from understanding that there's plenty. There's plenty of money. No matter how much money Jeff Bezos makes and Warren Buffett make, they'll never run out. They'll print more, right? So there's plenty of money, but it's more than just money. I know as young professionals, you may say, well, I'm not the person writing checks. But there's three types of generosity. You can be generous with your time, you can be generous with your talent, or you can be generous with your treasure. Right? So there's opportunities to be generous, even in an organization like the Urban League. Not just coming to the meetings, but being on the committee. I met some committee chairs. Right? Committee chairs, right? But there are opportunities all over the place. And if it's not the Urban League, it's, the Black MBA or whatever groups you join at work, there's committees, there's places where you can donate your time and your talent. If you have some treasure, that's good too. But it's about having a generous spirit that's attractive, because people like to be around. When you think about people that you thought about, the person who inspired you, chances are they have a generous spirit. Resourceful, right? Be a person who knows stuff, right? Be well-read. So often we get caught up in just looking at our social media feed and what's on the internet, right? But there's a world of information out here, right? To learn, to know things, to be that person who knows stuff, who knows where, and it can even be, restaurants. It can be, be curious and find out things. And also resourcefulness is about getting stuff done, right? So being that type of person who, if I call you, I feel that you're going to be able to help me in some way. You have access to resources. That could be your network. That could be things that could be places you can recommend. So be a resourceful person. Empathetic, right? A good listener, right? That's something the world is missing right now. Everybody likes to talk, right? We need more listeners, and that's also another way when you think about connecting to successful people. Everybody needs something. No matter how rich you are, how high up on the corporate ladder you've climbed, how much stuff you've had, you still want to be seen for who you are. Right? So being empathetic, being a good listener, being able to sit and hear what the person needs also gives you an opportunity to be generous, right? If the person has a need, right? Or be resourceful if they need information or they need to get something done. So being empathetic allows you to tap into or display your generosity and your resourcefulness. Authenticity, that's part of what we're talking about here today. I know many of you have heard the term fake it till you make it. That's a really bad strategy. Right? Because it's not sustainable. And then people also can see through it. Right? You can't continue to be that person. If you're connecting with people from a place of, I just want to be your friend because of what you can do for me, or I just want to be your friend for now, and you're coming from an inauthentic place, that connection won't be pure. That connection won't be real, and that person won't stick around and stay in your network. So it's important that you're coming at this person from the generosity, the resourcefulness, the really listening to the person, not faking it. You have to be authentic as you're building connections. It's like the authenticity is the platform that the relationship is built on. Next. And trustworthy. Right? And people understand it, they have a general understanding of what trust is, but there's different types of trust. Right? Trust is not just integrity. People assume you have integrity. If I lend you my car, I assume you're going to bring it back. Right? But it also means capability. Can you drive? right? Will you bring it back in one piece? That's another question, right? So it's about trustworthiness is about capability as well as integrity, but also intent, and that goes back to the authenticity piece. What are your intentions for this relationship? So, so that's it in a nutshell. I wanted to save some time for questions, and so I can talk about any particular questions you have about networking, about what we talked about today. All right.
So I have a question. Oh, go ahead.
So you're saying that networking is not necessarily about what you do when you meet the person, it's about what you do after that with the relationship.
It's about following up with that person and staying in touch. So I can dive into that just a little bit. It's about deciding who you want to have in your network, and then creating a calendar or using a CRM or using something to remind you to stay in touch with this person on a regular basis. And people will like that. Sometimes people tell me, well, wouldn't that be annoying? And I ask them, well, when was the last time someone called you that you hadn't talked to in years just to say hello and they didn't want anything? It rarely happens. Everybody, as a matter of fact, whenever I get that call from somebody I haven't talked to since college, I'm waiting for that. I just started this new MLM, or right? We've all gotten that call, or I need you to donate. My daughter's in the So when you're calling people and you're being generous, authentic, empathetic, when you're showing that, not asking for anything. After a while, that person will say, "Hey, this person really cares about me. This is a good person. This is a great person. I want to be in their circle." I got two questions. You want to help me with that?
Oh, sure.
I don't want to.
You mean like work? Okay.
Sorry.
Wait, I didn't think who had their hand up? Oh, go ahead. And please go ahead and state your name. Thanks. Okay, appreciate it.
Stand as well.
No, you don't have to.
No.
Hi, my name is Ashley, and I'm new to the Atlanta area. Recently moved here, and there are plenty of businesses that I'm standing up. But in the meantime, I'm meeting all of these people who I think would be valuable resources, and I understand the point of maintaining a calendar and connecting with people. But I'm wondering, what are some tools or tips you have for someone who is in the early stages of building up their business? And what are some criteria of a person, what are some criteria of that relationship, that friendship that you're talking about that you should be looking for?
Right.
Aside from a great person.
Right. So, that's a start, right? But really understanding what your core values are, right? So for me, that is a great way to determine who should be in your network based on what your values are. And if you've never done this work, you can go online and actually print out, there's a list of 50 core value words: freedom, money, security. What are the things that are important to you? And once you've identified them, then that gives you a way to tell whether this person who's in your circle is violating those core values, or does that person share your values? Because everybody has to have the same values in order to be effective in the network. One bad apple can ruin your whole network.
I was curious, could you talk a little bit about the trustworthiness and authenticity piece when it comes to where I have President Marshall in my network, and I really want to understand that it's a true friendship and a value, the relationship, but also I haven't asked, and I don't want to rub her the wrong way. Does that make sense?
Yeah. The ask, I just tell people to give, and then ask, right? There's a law of reciprocity where people want to give to people who have given to them. It's almost like it's instinctual, right? But you have to give first. And that's where the generosity comes from. So if you're giving to someone and then one day you say, hey, I need a favor. Now, if that person doesn't reciprocate, then that person's probably not a good person to be in your network. There is risk that that person may say, hey, I appreciate all the stuff you've done for me. I'm not going to do that for you. And then you have to make a choice on whether that person is really a good fit to be in your network.
Joshua Gray, once again. With the advent of, I guess, being in the pandemic, do you see any changes or strategies to kind of adapt to this new age of, I guess, working virtually?
Yes, yes. And interestingly enough, while it started out for me being a negative, I mean, I was scared. I mean, I'm a network coach, right? I mean, how, everybody's inside. What the heck? My business is failing. But then I realized that with the internet, you actually can meet people. You're not limited to a geographic location. You can actually meet people in other countries or all around the country whenever you want, and meet hundreds of people. I made so many good connections online that I would not have been able to do if it hadn't been for the pandemic. So while it's not, net's probably not a good thing, but I've been able to utilize it to continue to grow and build my network. Oh, question in the back.
When you're talking about keeping in constant contact with those that you're trying to build a relationship with, what's a good repetition? Like how long do you go between reaching out to somebody, having that conversation with them, and then reaching out again down the road?
That's a good question. I recommend monthly. I recommend monthly. So your network should be about 100 people, right? That goes back to what I was saying. Is about 100 people tends to be a good number for a network. And what that allows you to do is you can ping 3 people a day, right? 3 to 4 people a day. And that can be a ping, can be a phone call, it can be a text, it can be a social media contact, right? What you want to do is stay top of mind. If you remember the 3% rule, people will need your product or your service at some point. They just don't need it today. What happens is, when I need that service, will I remember you? I remember this guy had a great Jamaican food, but I don't remember. His business card is in my business card drawer, And so, but if you've been in touch with them authentically, not just sending promotional newsletters, because that gets annoying, just check in. How are you doing? How you feeling? How you making it? Just to check in. People actually appreciate that. It's not annoying at all. I appreciate whenever someone sends me a text message or comments on my social media, just check it in. Yes.
This may be a redundant question, but as a startup, how do you go about the new barter system, since a lot of inflation is going on and people are really trying to provide for their families? There's a lot of scarcity going on. So how would you recommend that, not seeming like you're coming off as just strictly barter, but it's just really important nowadays to understand and
That's the purpose of a network, right? It's about having people around you, but understanding that the people in your network, there's an expectation that everybody here works together. And you're the leader of your own network. You're the queen of your network. And you set the rules. And in your network, bartering is a thing. And so we talk, and there's an expectation that if I need a ride or if I need something, information, because you're resourceful, right? Whenever people know that when they call you, that you're boom. And again, it's that reciprocity, right? So that's part of your spirit, and you're going to attract people who have a similar spirit, and you'll find that people will just kind of do that, and your number of friends will grow. There's actually a number. It's called Dunbar's number, that humans can manage 150 simultaneous social relationships, right? Close, 150, that's the number. Anthropologists came up with that. Right, you can't, but so we limit ourselves, we talk to the same 5 people. If you look at your phone, at your phone bill, you talk to the same 5 people over and over again, right? And while those people give us comfort, right, it's not networking, it's not effective, because quite often those people, while they love you, they either can't or won't help you with where you're trying to go in life. They're just not in a position where they can promote you or they can buy what you're selling. And so expanding that, and 150 is probably a lot, but like I said, about 100 people that you talk to regularly, and you select who those 100 people are, will change your life. Oh, we got same two. Okay.
Do you have a separate set of rules of engagement when building out a mentoring network? Like a network of mentors and people that you go to for guidance?
Yeah, I don't know if it's separate rules of engagement. I think it's all the same, right? Because mentors, what they hate is, hey, boom, 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 nice to meet you. Would you be my mentor, right? But it's about showing them being generous, right? Being empathetic, listening to them, being authentic, until they offer to say, you'd be a great mentee. I like your style. You're a great person.
So to piggyback off of that, obviously there's a difference between a mentor and a sponsor.
Yes.
So how do you build that relationship to go from a mentor to a sponsor?
Awesome.
From my understanding, they'll be the ones who are there in the rooms.
Yes, that's exactly right.
They'll mention you, or you know that you're up for a promotion or some job, whatever it may be.
Yeah, and that's actually difficult, but that's the key question, right? Is finding a sponsor. And so, I'll repeat a little bit of what he said from my understanding. A mentor is someone who will advise you, right? Who you can ask questions to, who you meet with regularly to help offer some guidance and advice. A sponsor actually is going to walk you into the room, right? A sponsor is going to open up the doors for you. So if you have a product you're trying to get into Walmart, the sponsor actually is going to walk you into Walmart. Or if you're trying to get a job, you want to be a director or senior director, the sponsor will give you projects that will give you the visibility that you need. Right? So first of all, it's important to identify who that sponsor is. And maybe it's 2 or 3, because you can't force that. All you can do is be the best person that you can be, right? And that comes down to the authenticity. It's not about faking it till you make it. It's about fixing whatever it is that's keeping you out of your greatness, right? So if it's something that's stopping you or blocking you from being that person that deserves to be in the C-suite, I think Eric Thomas talks about, even if you had $1 million, you're not a millionaire yet. You become a millionaire before you get the money. It's mindset. So it's about changing your mindset so a sponsor will feel comfortable putting you in that room. Because if I open this door for you, don't embarrass me, as my mom would say. Don't embarrass me, right? So you have to be the type of person that they would feel comfortable doing, and still build that relationship. The emails, the ping, the text message, just slowly build a relationship, but with no expectation that they will sponsor you. They'll let you know when they're ready.
So this all sounds good, right?
Uh-oh.
Sorry, I'm the rouser there. It sounds good. The city of Atlanta, I think particularly being here, building authentic relationships, I feel like is increasingly difficult. And you talked about, aligning yourselves with people who share common values, and I think in some ways that's also really difficult, because it's like, how are you parsing out what they value? And I will say that probably through continual conversation. But I find it really difficult sometimes to build those authentic relationships, because the people that are really shining, that people are always like kind of wanting to talk to or wanting to engage with, sometimes they're not really good people, right? So how do you get rid of that shininess to really get the root to who these people really are, so that you actually really are making those authentic relationships, and it's not that you're not wasting your time, you're not wasting your time.
Right.
Building those relationships.
Yeah, it's about building yourself, right? It's about, I know this sounds a little woo-woo, but it's about healing, right? The reason we're attracted to that shininess is because we have a gap in our own, right? We're dissatisfied with what we have and who we are. That gives you that I need this person in my life, right? When you're coming at it from a different mindset, that I am the center, I am the magnet, and I am going to attract the types of people around me that will resonate with my spirit, right? And so I hear what you're saying. It is difficult, right? Discernment is never easy, and even no matter how, even I mess up and make mistakes, because some people are tricky, and that's part of the risk of human connection. Humans are, funny, and so, but it's worth the risk, But I think it has to start with you really getting to know yourself, becoming happy with where you are. Because, and I want to make sure that everybody's clear, part of why people network and we get in bad relationships sometimes is because we're not happy with where we are, right? We're not happy with what we have. But if you're not happy with where you are or what you have today, you won't be happy with where you are or what you get later, right? The happiness comes first. This is what I talked about, being a millionaire comes first. The satisfaction with what I have comes first, because then you can attract people, because people are attracted to happy people. People are attracted to satisfied people, right? And if you feel like you need something, I used to say, there's nothing outside of your body that can change the way you sustainably change the way you feel inside. There's nothing outside of your body that can change the way you feel inside sustainably. It's like if you're hungry, you have a bologna sandwich and you tape it to your shoulder, right? It doesn't work, right? It sounds silly, but that's the thing. People think that if I get this car, I get this house, once I get this job, I get $50,000 or $100,000. Once I make $100,000, that's the magic number. I make $100,000, then I'll be happy. Hogwash, you will not, right? It's about finding happiness where you are, building a circle of people who you resonate with and who resonate with you. And that's where that happiness, that satisfaction, that joy out of life comes.
I mean, I don't have a collection plate, but that resonated.
And we just use a hat. Somebody got a hat? Jokes.